This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 25th of June, 2021, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
I am CS.
And so, in case you missed today's headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, what went wrong? In the Standard, the evolution of DP RUTO. And in the Star, Raila, Kalonzo and Mudavadi talk of NASA revival. So, I think yesterday's video was quite a hit.
Absolutely.
When we revealed who the new deputy president is going to be.
Yes.
Tell us more.
And it is that ticket is unbeatable. The Raila Martha Karua ticket is unbeatable. In fact, the Martha Karua factor in 2022 will totally kill William Ruto's hopes of becoming president. And this is because for Ruto to be president, he needs over 90% of Gema's 5.6 million vote.
Yeah.
Ruto's core support in 2022 is Uhuru's 2017 core support. It consists of two communities, Gema and Kalenjin. Both communities have a total basket vote of 7.9 million votes. Gema 5.6 million, Kalenjin 2.3 million votes. Now, if 50% of Gema voters are unsure of Ruto, for whatever reason, Martha Karua will be Gema's choice with a strong 2.8 million voting bloc.
Yes.
And herein, we want to submit the premise for saying this. Kenya's election cycle has always been an ethnic project. Kikuyus will always vote for Kikuyus, Luos will always vote for Luos, Kambas will always vote for Kambas. So yes, if Martha Karua is a Gema candidate, Martha Karua will receive more than 50% of Gema votes.
Yes.
After all, she never killed any Kikuyus. She protected them. She was the one who single-handedly fought Ruto and Miguna in 2007 at KICC. And she beat them.
Yeah.
She protected Kibaki and Gema in 2007. Anyway, back to the numbers. If Martha Karua runs on a Raila ticket together with Kalonzo and Mudavadi, that ticket has the ability to marshal 9.7 million votes. Martha Karua, 2.8 million. Musalia, 2.6 million, Raila, 2.2 million, and Kalonzo, 2.1 million votes. If this happens, William Ruto will be class. And he and his Gema Hasuras would only achieve 5.1 million votes from their core support base of Kikuyus and Kalenjins.
At best.
At best. Now, that's half of what the Raila Karua ticket would achieve. Bottom line is simple. William Ruto needs Kikuyus to be president. In fact, without Kikuyus, there is no Ruto.
True.
As Professor Mutai Ngoni says, Ruto has feet of clay. An afternoon shower in Gema will melt his feet of clay.
Which, of course, was part of the standard headline today, wasn't it?
Kaboom.
Yes. Now, yesterday, 2J provoked a powerful thought when she posed the idea of pairing Martha Karua with Raila Odinga.
Oh, yes.
And it's the same thing that 2M was just talking about. She then emphasized, 2J that is, that this is the age of the woman.
Yes.
That got me thinking about women leadership, especially at a time when we're still wrestling with constitutional provisions on the two-third gender rule, a time when we are contemplating constitutional changes that would ensure that we have more women in parliament, with Senate alone comprising 50% of women. More women in devolved government, with every governor ticket having a woman on it, with a guaranteed portfolio in the county executive. Indeed, it is the age of the woman. Digging a little deeper into it from a global perspective, there was an article in The Nation today which aligned with this theme of the age of the woman. The article was looking into the global proportion of women parliamentarians. The article began by reminding us that it has been 26 years since the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which set the international target for reaching gender balance in political decision-making. 26 years after the Beijing Declaration, statistics reveal that across the globe, women on average represent 25.5% of parliamentarians.
Wow.
And only 22 out of 193 countries have women as head of government. And of these, only 10 women are head of state. In terms of ministerial portfolios, only 13 countries have 50% or more of women as ministers. And even then, women tend to be assigned portfolios that have to do with family and children's affairs, social affairs, environment, employment, and gender equality. Back home, giving credit where credit is overdue, it stands to reason that the same man in the name of Uhuru Kenyatta that is advocating for more women in both houses of parliament and more women at the helm of counties, this same man is the one who has women at the helm of our ministries of defense and foreign affairs, which are some of the most powerful dockets in the executive.
Indeed.
That said, given the global statistics, it is undeniably apparent that more still needs to be done to elevate women to positions of leadership and to create an enabling environment for gender equity. To our minds here at the Fifth Estate and the Fort Hall School of Government, this is precisely why the President has been at the forefront of championing a progressive gender agenda. Indeed, the spirit of transformative constitutionalism requires and even demands that we should seek to crystallize and make real in our lifetimes those ideas we all agree are good for country, but are only still ideas. If we are to realize ideals such as gender equity and more women in power, then to make it happen, we shouldn't wait for other generations to come and make it happen. The time is now, and we are the ones we have been waiting for.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
Age of the woman. I'm loving this, guys. I'm so happy that I've inspired your thoughts today. I'm going to take a bit of a tangent, maybe going back to what the standard speaks to. And more so, it's actually after watching the Deputy President's interview on KTN last night. And after that, I have only 3 observations I would like to make. Because frankly, I'm getting tired of William Ruto's fake PR stunts. First is a trend I've noticed about when the DP chooses to do these national TV interviews. Simply, it's when he needs press and attention the most. Uhuru Kenyatta just returned from dazzling officials in Turkey and Brussels, is responsible for the revival of ports across the country, and is changing the political landscape in this country for the better. Meanwhile, and in his own words, William Ruto is busy delivering buses to schools and calls that work. So I ask, who is his audience and what is the purpose of these interviews? Second is a sentiment that I've seen quite everywhere, that when the DP does an interview, he says nothing. He says more at rallies, funerals, and church services than he ever does on national TV. Last night, he was avoidant, vague, and deflective. If you no longer believe in the Jubilee administration, why don't you resign? No answer. What do you say of Jubilee members defecting to UDA? No answer. And this reminded me of the trickster archetype that you find in many cultures around the world. The trickster, like the name suggests, is an individual who is deceitful and manipulative. In some cultures, the trickster is characterized as a coyote, which is like a wolf. This person is fond of breaking rules, boasting, and playing tricks. From the interview, I saw a man who is comfortable abusing his boss when he's surrounded by the masses, but he won't dare to do the same when it's him, a camera, and the whole country watching. Is this a trick? Which leads me to my third and final observation. I'm beginning to believe that William Ruto is tired of being isolated and he wants to be welcomed back into the inner circle. And I say this because of the pressure that the pressure of 2022 is heating up. The reality of politics is that friends are everything, for money and for influence. And in my view, Ruto has very little of both. And so as 2022 gets closer, he's going to be forced to make some choices, because there are some lines of no return if he crosses them. And with that said, this is the very last DP interview I will be tuning into for the foreseeable future.
You know what, 2J, I started watching it and I got minute 3, I slept.
I know. I actually sat in for the full 3-hour interview. It was very tough.
He was so boring.
I'll give props to Sophia though. So on that note, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to assess the headlines. We ask ourselves, is it topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, or thoughtful, or just plain lazy? So what do we think about what went wrong? This is based on the fatalities of that helicopter crash yesterday. Of course, the families of those who they lost, they're in our hearts right now.
Yeah.
Condolences.
The Standard.
I think the Standard wins. I think we don't throw away the Nation.
The Daily Nation, what went wrong? Of course, I agree.
Yeah, but the Star can...
Out of respect, we toss the Star.
Yeah.
And I guess we're saying our winning headline is the evolution of DP RUTO with an additional quote from Professor Mutahingunyi on the headline.
That's why you win. And now, our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled 3 Days in May by J. Epstein.
But before that, allow us to give you a summary of the books that we looked at all through this week. This week was a political scandals week. We started off on Tuesday when we looked at the famous Watergate scandal. We used the book All the President's Men by Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein to take an in-depth look at the scandal that led to the fall of American President Richard Nixon. On Wednesday, we looked at the Gupta family in South Africa using the book The Republic of Gupta by Peter Louis Myburgh. In the book, investigative journalist Peter Louis pieces together the jagged pieces of the history of Atul Gupta's remarkable rise from flea market shoe seller to being listed as the 7th richest person in South Africa and exposes the biggest official heist by private interests of South African state. On Thursday, we looked at the book Billion Dollar Whale, The Man Who Fooled Wall Street, Hollywood and the World. We looked at the story of Zhou Lo, an enterprising businessman from Malaysia who used his social connection to the country's former Prime Minister, Najib Razak, to transform himself into an international financier.
And today we go back to politics, looking at the life of Dominic Strauss-Kahn, one of the world's most powerful men.
Oh, yeah.
He's also known as DSK informally, and he was the head of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and he was also set to win France's 2012 presidential election. That is, until he was arrested in New York and charged with attempting to rape a hotel maid. So in May of 2011 came his first major setback. The New York Police Department arrested Strauss-Kahn when he was already aboard a plane heading to France and waiting for takeoff. Handcuffed, he was thrust into the limelight of the press, an image that went around the world. So, Nafissatou Diallo was a 33-year-old maid from Guinea who worked at the luxury hotel Sofitel in New York. She had accused Strauss-Kahn of sexual assault. The former director of the IMF was taken into custody, and 4 days later, he resigned as the head of the IMF, all the while stressing his innocence. Now, the purpose of this book was to break down some of the conspiracies around the scandal, chief of them being whether Strauss-Kahn was being set up by political rivals and whether Diallo, the maid, had fabricated some of her story. So the author suggests that the French owners of this hotel, at the very least, helped the French political forces to exploit this incident. The author shows that if there was a conspiracy against DSK, as many believe now, it was an after-the-fact conspiracy in which DSK's political opponents learned of the sexual incident at the hotel through surveillance and then shaped it into a major scandal that changed the course of French politics. So months later, it was reported that the case was on the verge of collapse because of problems with the credibility of Diallo, who had, according to sources, repeatedly lied since making her first statement. So after completing a lengthy investigation, prosecutors filed a motion to drop all charges against Strauss-Kahn, stating that they were not convinced of his culpability beyond a reasonable doubt. And this was due to serious issues in this woman's credibility and the inconclusive physical evidence. Interestingly, a year later, DSK and Diallo ended up settling in court for an amount close to $6 million. But it did leave many questions unanswered about what happened that day and whether there were other forces involved in the scandal.
Man, I'll tell you, I won't spoil. You guys should go and watch Room 2806.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I won't spoil the series for you, but I think Dominic Strauss-Kahn was set up. And I think the Guinean maid, Nafissatou Diallo, was paid to do it. My hypothesis is Sarkozy never wanted Strauss-Kahn to succeed him. But I want to tell you why. Go watch it on, but I will not tell you why. Go watch it on Netflix and figure it out. I'll focus on why Strauss-Kahn did not do it. See, after Diallo accused DSKs of sexually harassing her, the security team called John Sheehan, who works as a security director for RUTO, the French company that owns the Sofitel chain of hotels. His boss, on the material day, was actually with then French President Nicolas Sarkozy watching a football match. The chap even had ties to Ange Mancini, who was Sarkozy's coordinator of intelligence. Now, Sheehan is allegedly seen on the surveillance footage at the hotel with an identified man who accompanied Diallo to the hotel security, celebrating shortly before police arrived.
Yeah.
The two men high-five each other, clap hands, and do what looks like an extraordinary dance celebration that lasts for about 3 minutes.
Party after party.
Party after party. In addition to what I've just said, in July 2011, New York federal prosecutors said that Diallo may have lied about the sexual allegations. And this is because they found that the woman this Diallo woman had received $100,000 in cash from an incarcerated drug dealer from 2009. And that she called him on the day after the incident to discuss whether she should press charges. And there is a tape of this call. The woman also apparently owned 5 cell phones after telling prosecutors she only had one. And she had also lied in an application for political asylum. 2J, we were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
Now, question is, if she has a history of lying, why would we believe her if she says she was raped? And if indeed she was raped, why would the security guards she reported to be high-fiving each other?
Yeah.
But more importantly, if Sheehan's boss was watching football with Sarkozy on the day Diallo accused Strauss-Kahn of rape, what are the odds that Sarkozy did not personally oversee the setup? Let's go watch the Netflix clip.
Tuam, you raise a very important point. In the law of evidence, the character of a witness is something that's very material to the testimony that they give.
Absolutely.
The most fascinating yet terrifying thing about this book for me is how it uniquely captures the age of surveillance. The author of this book captured the scandal of the 3 days in May almost as though he was there, purely by relying on surveillance evidence and some interviews. But the author painstakingly studied the evidence gathered during the course of the investigation, which included CCTV footage, cell phone ISPs, credit card charges, radio police log, the hotel's electronic swipe records, and many other breadcrumbs on a digital trail. The fact that such an elaborate supposed expose can be weaved together simply by mainly relying on Dominic Strauss-Kahn's digital and surveillance footprint has to be one of the most typical epitomes of the fact that we are in an age when Big Brother is always watching. And the more I read this book, the very prospect of the proverbial eye in the sky became more menacing and intimidating. It brought into stark contrast the reality that just based off of our digital footprints, very accurate digital profiles of us can be created, which mirror what we do, where we've been, who we've been with, who we are, and even the choices we are likely to make even before we make them.
Yes.
It is precisely why data is the new oil and the new El Dorado for capitalists worldwide. Data analytics is a new vessel for voyages into the new world in the age of information. And it isn't just private corporations which are capitalizing on this. Governments were in on the data expeditions long before we had stable internet connections. For example, it was discovered that after Muammar Gaddafi's regime fell in 2011, documents found in Libyan intelligence revealed that a subsidiary of the French company Bull SA had supplied Libyan intelligence with what was known as an Eagle interception system.
Okay.
This allowed Libyan intelligence to gain access through ISPs to the smartphones of a vast number of suspected dissidents, and then through special filtering software, intercept their emails, online chats, and Facebook messages through what the company called massive interception. If such products are commercially available, you can only imagine what a first-class intelligence service can achieve in terms of remote surveillance.
Beautiful.
Very interesting. I think that may be a good theme for us to explore next week, that age of surveillance.
Absolutely.
So, on a day where we had a winning headline from The Standard, the evolution of RUTO, I want to leave you with this quote. There is beauty in truth, even if it's painful. Those who lie twist life so that it looks tasty to the lazy, brilliant to the ignorant, and powerful to the weak. But lies only strengthen our defects. Lies don't teach anything, fix anything, or cure anything, nor do they develop one's character, mind, or heart. There is beauty in truth. With that, I want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on TV. We're on Pang Free to Air, Star Times, and Go TV. Have a lovely weekend. We will see you on Monday.